Hi, everybody. Welcome to the OnStage Blog Theater podcast. And this is the show where we like to talk things, and this is the show where I like to talk all things theater. And I am theater critic Rachel Wagner, and Jacqueline Collier is here.
Rachel, I'm so excited to chat with you
Oh,
about all the exciting stuff we've been seeing lately.
yes, this is going to be a ton of fun, and we want to hear from you what you have been watching on the stage so far in 2025. What have been your favorites? What do you recommend? Please let us know. But before we dive into that, we thought it would be fun to give our just reactions to the Olivier nominations over there in England. These are for the West End. We're not going to talk about all of them, obviously, and none of us have seen any of these, so it's just kind of a base response. But it's interesting to see what is getting buzz over there, because oftentimes then that will end up coming to New York. And
Exactly.
and so the best new musical, they have The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, music and lyrics by Darren Clark, books and lyrics by Jethro Compton at the Ambassadors Theater. And then they have MJ the Musical. I finally got over there. Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812 finally, I guess, got over there.
Yeah.
And then Why Am I So Single? This music and lyrics and book by Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss. And this is the same team that did Six. So they're coming over. And I've heard pretty good things about this Why Am I So Single?
And it sounds adorable and really fun. Like this sounds like something that's definitely up my alley, has a little bit of an
Uh-huh.
edge to it. I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Is that the one that would like which of these, if you were say you could pick one of these to see, which one would you see?
Why am I still single? I would definitely
Uh,
see that. What about
yeah.
you?
Well, everyone knows I'm not that big of a Six fan, but at least this is, I think, like an actual musical, like with sets and costumes and
And like a book, the whole thing.
yeah, yeah, not like a concert like Six, which just I was underwhelmed by. Um, But yeah, in Curious Case of Benjamin Button, I don't know if I'm just overly influenced by the movie because it just I'm like, oh, that sounds boring. But I have heard that it's really good.
Do you not like the movie? I don't love it.
No, the movie's
Yeah,
boring.
it's more okay, good. I'm not
The
crazy,
movie's
right?
boring. No, 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 no. The movie's boring. I mean, well acted. It looks
Yeah.
nice. You've got Brad Pitt and Kate Blanchett. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's just kind of boring.
Rachel, I know that I can have my own opinions and they are valid just because they're my opinions. But if I have an opinion and then you back it up, I feel good about myself. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. I'm like, okay, she then one, you have good taste, and two, you're a critic. So I'm like, okay, good.
Oh,
I I
thanks.
can I can I can be like, all right, I'm not crazy in thinking that that movie was a little boring.
Yeah. No, and you know what? It's true even for critics. Like I try to be, obviously I am like confident in my own opinion. I don't need anybody else's opinion to back my opinion, but even saying it when somebody does agree with you, there is something kind of like, oh, okay, great. It does feel kind of good. I get it. I get
Right?
it.
It's like, okay,
Mhm.
validation. We're in the same boat here.
Yeah, like I was underwhelmed by Conclave at this last Oscar season. It's not a bad movie, but I don't know. I just did not see what everybody else was seeing. And my friend Sean, in his Oscar ranking, he had Conclave pretty low, and he said almost the exact same thing that I said. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, somebody, because like nobody seemed to see it the way I saw it, and it feels good when you get
Yes.
that kind of affirmation.
Yes. Now, I think a lot of people saw Amelia Perez the same way we did, even though, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Did you see the moment? I didn't watch the Oscars in full. I just saw clips. But when they sang their acceptance
Oh,
speech,
that was I mean, in a way it was kind of perfect to have such a cringe moment for Amelia Perez, but just think this through. It was bad.
Rachel, you know that secondhand embarrassment
Yeah.
where like I feel my own cheeks getting red even thinking about it. It's just, and then was John Lithgow, was he reacting to that, or was that like he was reacting to something else
Well,
and then they
no, like it was a joke that Conan said early on that, oh, I'll look to John Lithgow for my disappointment face. and then it went to him, and so he was kind of playing up
Okay.
for the
Oh,
crowd.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That
for
makes
the
sense.
bit.
Yeah, for the bet.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was wild. Yeah, that was
Heaven help
terrible.
us. Heaven
Oh
help
my
us.
gosh. How do you feel about MJ the musical? What are your thoughts?
I loved MJ, the
Uh-huh.
musical. This is tricky because Michael Jackson is an icon and one of the most talented people to ever live. And then we I want to believe the people who say that he's like inflicted a lot of harm on them, but also he had a rough time. There's
Yeah.
not but just and all these things. But there is something about his level of talent, or maybe the fact that he's not with us on earth anymore, that people are more, they seem more able to separate the art from the artist in this instance.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And it was really fun. I
Yeah.
loved it. The performances were spectacular. I had a great time.
So I think that they did what they could. I don't think that if you want to do that kind of and we had a whole episode on jukebox musicals, so people
Yeah,
missed it. You check if you want to do that kind of bio musical where Michael Jackson, I don't think you could do a better job than what they did.
you're 100%. Yeah.
But the whole story, I mean, it was completely. I almost wish it had just been a concert, like a karaoke style concert, like Six, because everything, like the story that they try to add, like meant nothing. You were just kind of waiting for the next song, which was, like the dancing and the singing were excellent. So I enjoyed it. It's a one-time watch for me, but it was okay. Yeah, and of course Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet is incredible. They did a Pioneer Theater Company last year, and I saw it twice. It was so good. So good.
I
So
really wanted to, I've not seen it.
oh yeah, it's really like it's just so different, and you're just think like you watch it and you just think, how did this get made? Who greenlit this? What crazy person out there like thought that this obscure section of War and Peace, this really odd music, like it just you watch it and you just like, wow, how did it get made? I don't know.
I love when something like that makes it to the stage where you're like, oh, this is a marvel that this even got made.
Yeah, yeah. So, new entertainment or comedy play. They have the ballet shoes, inside number 9 stage fright, Spirited Away, and Titanic is there. So that's interesting. I mean, I've heard the Spirited Away. My sister saw it when she went to England and was totally blown away. I saw the Spirited Away. They filmed it. It was a live like pro shot.
Oh,
Yeah, and yeah, that was incredible. I can't even imagine seeing it in person. Because it's based on this anime. Um, and so that's really cool.
when I was in the babysitting game, all of the little girls were obsessed with Spirited Away.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm really intrigued by that. I've seen Titanic like 11 times, so
Oh,
I'm
really?
sure on the West End it's great. One of my really good friends was in it, and it's really fun. I'm
Yeah,
interested to see how it does on the West End because it really made sense here off Broadway. It got a sort of
yeah,
cult following, and then that sort
yeah,
of exploded from there. I'm really interested to see how it
yeah.
plays in England.
It'll be interesting. And then the last category that we'll talk about is best revival musical revival. So we have Fiddler on the Roof, which is the big winner as far as nominees. It got 13, I think, nominations. This production of Fiddler on the Roof, and then Hello Dolly, Oliver, and Starlight Express are the revivals. And which one of those would you be the most inclined to see out of
Probably
those?
Fiddler. Probably
Yeah,
Fiddler.
yeah.
I mean, honestly, all those are great musicals. But Fiddler is probably the one that I would want to see the most. It'd be interesting to see Oliver there because it's set there.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. That's a good point.
what do you think? What are you most intrigued by?
Yeah, well, I might be tempted to see Starlight Express just the spectacle of it
Oh, for
and
sure.
seeing it professionally done, I think would be so cool. But I mean, Fiddler is definitely my favorite of any of these shows for sure. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I think it's one of those that not only is it fun and funny with all these iconic songs, but it's meaningful too, which I think that, I mean, all of those are in their own way,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
would be very curious.
Yeah. So if any of you have been to the West End, if you've seen any of these shows, have any opinions on these nominees or ones we didn't talk about, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So now we're going to actually talk a little bit about this is the first sort of quarter of the year and some of the stuff that we have been seeing. And why don't you start, Jax? What's something that you have seen recently?
Well, if you saw our episode, and if you haven't, you should, about reviewing what was coming to Broadway,
Yeah, our
um,
preview.
our preview. I saw English and it was incredible. It was a limited Broadway run. So now it's to see the entire cast that came up in the off-Broadway run actually was in this Broadway run, which Rachel, that is, I feel like unheard of at this point.
Uh-huh.
They do so much stunt casting, star casting. It gets me so emotional thinking about how this group has really shepherded this story from beginning to end. And it was beautiful, hilarious, completely unique to anything I've ever seen on stage. I love it so much. And I'm excited it's going to have a little bit of a regional life. The Alley Theater is doing it this year.
Oh,
I'm sure other theaters will do it as well, but it's really, really beautiful, and I was
well,
so impressed.
why don't you remind people a little bit about what it's about?
Sure. So Sonatas Tusi is this playwright that I saw do another off-Broadway show called Wish You Were Here. That was just one of my favorite things I've ever seen on stage. And this is about a woman who's teaching a group of students English, and the whole class speaks Farsi. And it's so interesting the way they do it because when the students are speaking, of course, the whole play is in English, except for a little part at the end that I don't want to give anything away. But when everyone is speaking Farsi, they're doing it with a complete English dialect, like perfect English
Oh,
dialect. So we know they're speaking Farsi. And when they're speaking English, they're doing it with their Farsi accent. And they don't explain this, but like it's very easy to get the convention pretty much immediately because they're so good at it. And they're all in this English as a second language class learning from their teacher, but also sharing their culture, getting in arguments, really also just talking about what language means to people. And it was just a breathtaking play. It was so completely unique. And I just wish more people could see it.
oh, that's cool. That's good. Yeah. I'd love to see that one of these days. Yeah.
I think you honestly, Rachel, I think
Yeah.
Pioneer will do it.
Yeah. It seems like the kind of thing that they'll end up doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
thinking
I
that
give
same
it,
thing.
yeah. When you mentioned Pioneer earlier, and I was thinking about I know the Alley's doing it. I'm sure some other ones will do it. I
Yeah.
think it's like a Pioneer in
Yeah.
like 2027 or 26.
Yeah. Well, so I have actually, believe it or not, we're recording this on the 5th of March. I've seen 30 shows.
Rachel, it's so funny when you texted me that you had seen that many. I've been doing pretty well this year with seeing stuff. You said you saw 30 shows, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
girl, I
It's
love it.
intense and reviewed. All of
And
them.
reviewed. Yeah, you're not
Yeah.
just sitting there.
Yeah. So the ones that I think the listeners will be the most interested in is so I saw the Book of Mormon, a national tour coming through. So this was the first time that I've seen this show. I know people are like, what? It doesn't come to Salt Lake that often, ironically. Um, and I just had never I just never seen it. And so I went to see it, and a lot of people I think might sort of think, oh, well, you're Mormon, so of course you're not going to like it. I'm going to be like defensive of my beliefs. But that's not really it, actually. Um, I actually, I this might sound weird, but I actually think that they could have gone harder and been more pointed in its critiques of of the Mormon Church, I felt like to me that they wanted to more make fun of evangelicals, but you can't. That's not economically feasible. That's not economically plausible, because a lot of the
Mm,
jokes actually really have almost nothing to do with the church. And I know that that's coming from my like very inside baseball perspective, but like for example, there's a whole song where they talk about Mormon hell. And that song makes absolutely no sense. Mormons don't believe in hell. Mormons believe that almost every single person will get some kind of exaltation in the afterlife.
mm.
Um, we certainly do not believe in hell with a devil and horns and pitchfork and nothing, none of that. Like that's just not part of our theology at all. And but you know who does believe in that kind of hell? Evangelicals.
Yep, sure
You
do.
know. And so there were a lot of things like that I think to me didn't really make sense. Like I think that the South Park episode on the church that they did was way funnier than and so I think I was expecting that. I was expecting it to be on that level, but I don't know. I was just kind of underwhelmed by it. And then like the way that the native Africans are portrayed and being complete idiots, complete boons, simpletons, um, raping babies, like I was more offended for that than I was of like, oh, you're making fun of my church.
This is such a fascinating perspective because I was one of the people to see Book of Mormon. I think I saw it maybe a year ago, wasn't that long ago. And I'm someone with a passing familiarity with the Mormon faith, but I found myself very startled by the way the natives were portrayed as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was
And
shocking. And I guess they did improve it a little bit after 2020, but still, like, I was just like, like, how is this list? I mean, I get it's a joke, like, you're supposed to be laughing, but like, I don't know. I found it quite shocking.
yeah, and it's interesting what you're saying, Rachel. I mean, I think you hit it spot on, and this is a take I've not heard about the Book of Mormon. You're right. It's not economically sound to make fun of evangelicals. That's just not going to fly. There's too many people
Yeah.
that are going to. So I think that to your point about going harder, which I was surprised when you said that, but in thinking about it, you're looking for the specificity that will make it funnier to you because you
Yeah.
understand it. Whereas this is painting, I think, in a little bit broader strokes,
Hmm.
which I also think is probably just not as funny. I liked it and I thought there were a lot of toe tappers in it, but it didn't blow me the way it didn't blow me away the way it did for other people.
The best song, in my opinion, is "Turn It Off." I think that is the best
Great
song
song.
of this whole show. It's the only one that's like to me is like the satire really is effective and funny and works. Because like obviously I'm not expecting like missionary accuracy, but they're like
Right.
it's completely ridiculous. Like they like you don't get assigned a companion out of the MTC. You're not with them their entire mission. You can't tell your mission president that you want to go serve in another mission. That's not a like you can't do that. That's not allowed. You don't just make up whatever you're teaching. Like that's like not allowed. There's specific lessons that you're supposed to teach. I mean, and none of that would matter if I was laughing. Who
Right.
cares? But I wasn't laughing, and so I was just kind of like, I don't know. It was just one of those ones where I was like, I don't get it, but I'm glad that it provided joy to so many people.
Well, and also don't you think, Rachel, that I hear what you're saying about the accuracy of that, and if it was laughing, it wouldn't matter. But I feel like instead of giving us this like broad stroke idea of what hell is, couldn't they have gone much more specific with your actual beliefs and
Yeah.
made fun of that in a way
Yeah.
that was actually true? I don't know. I just think there's
Yeah.
lots you could do there.
Like I said, that South Park episode on Mormonism was way funnier, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So,
that's fascinating to
what are you going to
me.
do? But
Yeah.
so that was interesting. So what was another one that you saw?
I saw Gypsy, and I mean, I
Oh my gosh, with Audra?
Rachel. I wish you would. I
Ah,
actually was thinking of you. Well, not actually was thinking of you. I think of you a lot because we both because we're besties, but also because I
yeah,
go to a lot of usually I go to theater usually alone and I love it. But I
yeah,
also it's sometimes really nice to have a buddy that you're tight with and you can, and
yeah.
I
That's
was in the
true.
I was in the front row because those tickets were actually cheaper than a lot of the seats. And oh my gosh, Audra, I have heard mostly amazing reviews. Some people saying that her voice is like too operatic for it. They don't think she sounds
Oh,
like what, but honestly, for me, yes, is her voice amazing? Best ever. It's Audra McDonald. She's the queen. Sure. Rachel, the acting. It was a Wednesday matinee. This
oh
woman
my
is
gosh.
crying real
Oh
tears.
my gosh.
And I don't just think that crying means you're doing a good job, but you know what it felt like to me? It felt like Audra McDonald, it was like someone said to her, "You're only going to get to play Mama Rose one time. Throw everything you have at it in this one performance." And that's what it felt like.
Hmm.
It felt like she was giving everything she had, not like she was holding anything back or like it was just a Wednesday matinee.
Yeah.
And it was incredible. There were some interesting choices across the board. The cast was great. Danny Bernstein was great. It was interesting the daughters who I saw in the Notebook, and they were both great. Joy Woods and Jordan Tyson, they're great. There was some interesting direction where Baby June, even though she's like the adult Baby June, my student was playing the Baby June, and I thought she was amazing. And adult Baby June, great, but the whole thing was very like big and dramatic. Even the scene right before Mama was married, when she's like, "Oh, I didn't mean that about the costumes," when there's usually some gentleness, or I think there could be. There were interesting directions where it was like Baby June was so over the top and Louise was so quiet and subdued that I found it a little bit broad strokes as far as direction goes
Mm, mm,
with
hmm.
those two characters in
Yeah.
particular.
Interesting. Yeah, our Mickey Joe, I don't know if you watched his reviews, but he was a little mixed on it. He's a really good YouTuber. He's over there in England, but he sometimes does New York stuff too. And anyway, yeah, he was like, I'm putting it up to a really, really, really high standard. He's like, it's still good, but it just wasn't quite as good as I expected. So maybe that's part of it too. It's like going with like such high expectations.
Well, and have you seen the last time I saw Gypsy was when
I've never seen it.
you never seen it.
Never
Okay.
seen it. I mean, the movie. I've seen the movie, but
You've
I
seen the
never.
movie, but you didn't see like Patty or anything, which I haven't either.
No.
Um, my last experience was when I did it in community theater, so like seeing it, doing it in community theater, and it's interesting because I don't know, I it is a perfect book. Like Gypsy is a perfect book, and I just think that it's so exciting to see it on stage. I'd be very curious what you think of it.
Yeah. 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 I hope so. I hope I get to see it eventually. Well, I don't want people to think I'm just like a negative Nelly. So I saw a lot of things that I really enjoyed. Um, this year I saw a production of Fiddler on the Roof that I really enjoyed. I saw Little Women at Hale. They did a production that was absolutely outstanding with our friend Josh playing Professor Bear. He was
That's
great.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
That was great. I saw the Tale of Two Cities in concert. That was absolutely phenomenal. I said in my review that you could, if you took this exact, like the orchestra, the cast, everybody, and had it in Lincoln Center, it wouldn't feel out of place a bit. Like it was
Mm.
so good. That was incredible, and I'd never seen that show. So I was a little nervous going into an in concert. I'm like, am I going to get, I mean, I've read the book, but still, like, am I going to get kind of what's going on? But they did a great job with that.
I love, I mean, we've said this before, but it's like you just have so much access, Rachel, to such incredible theater in Utah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um, So excited to see some Shakespeare with you this summer.
Oh, that'll be so fun.
It'll be so fun.
I saw Wait Until Dark that was excellent. And Anything
Oh, okay.
Goes.
Yeah. What did you wait until dark? Had you seen it before? I've
Yeah,
seen
I've
it.
seen it many
Okay, you've
times
seen it
and
many
I
times.
love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the movie, but I really there's certain shows that I think are almost impossible to miss for me. And I would say Wait Until Dark is one of those. It's just so well crafted. It is perfectly crafted play.
It really
And
is.
they were phenomenal. It was a really good company, and they got it really dark and made it was very good. So all those I liked. I saw Beautiful at Pioneer Theater Company, and I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. I didn't realize that. I mean, I guess I just didn't know very much about Carole King going into it. I had no idea that she'd written so many different songs. I mean, I knew Tapestry, I knew her songs, but I didn't know that she'd written like so many other songs. And I think that it works better than the typical bio jukebox musical because you're not only hearing the songs they wrote, and so you've got all these different groups coming in and out, in and out, but you also have the songs that their friends wrote.
Yes.
And so it really was, it was just nice. It wasn't like, oh, here's a laundry list of Carole King songs. It was more unpredictable than that. And it was, like I said, a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
Rachel, you were me when I saw Beautiful. I was like, Carole King did this one? Like
Yeah,
I
I had no
honestly
idea.
couldn't, I kind of couldn't believe it. Like
Yeah.
I was a little bit overwhelmed in the best possible way with the breadth and depth of her talent. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
enjoyed it so much more than I thought I would too.
Yeah. Well, what's another that you've seen?
So I have the other things that I've been seeing. Um, I've been a part of this one act play festival, and I've been going to
Oh
see a
yeah.
lot of the one acts. What has been really cool with that is I know how you just mentioned you're like, oh, it wouldn't be out of place if it was at Lincoln Center. There was this one musical written by this woman named Chloe Svetla, and she most of the plays in this one act festival were between 10 minutes and 30
Yeah, it was
minutes.
kind of like a fringe sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But this one was 50 minutes, which was the maximum. And Rachel, I am telling you, I was like, I had goosebumps the entire time. It was about three young women who were in the waiting room of a hospital while their mother is in hospice. And that sounds sad, sure. And it was. But John Wick's playing in the background. They're having all these fights.
Oh.
It's touching. I laughed, I cried. Like honestly, I was completely um overwhelmed by how good it was and the fact that not only was the acting incredible, but the singing, the music, and at the talk back after, the woman who was running the talk back said, pretty much what you were saying when you're talking about Lincoln Center. She's like, I don't know. She's like, this was just really incredible. Like, I liked this better than I like the Hills of California. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I haven't seen the Hills of California yet, but it was really incredible. And afterwards, I was asking this playwright, um, what sort of like what is next for her, and she's developing a second act to it. So I'm
Oh.
just everyone be on the lookout for it. I'm not sure what
Do you
it'll be
remember the
called
name?
in. So I was trying to remember the name. I think it's Synonyms for Goodbye.
Okay.
Um, Synonyms for Goodbye.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure is what it's
Okay.
called.
Cool.
And I just cannot wait to see where this goes because I'm confident that it'll have like this could have like a really great off-Broadway run at a place like Playwrights Rise in Second City, like a nice off-Broadway space. And if so, Rachel, we have to make sure that one of your visits coincides with it because it was
Cool.
incredible.
That's awesome. Well, so I had the chance to see the national tour for Les Miserables. And if anybody knows me, knows how much I love Les Mis. It was a foundation show for me. I know that's like not original. Practically everybody loves Les Mis. But what's interesting is that sometimes I think because I love it so much and I've seen it so many times, I think I can be like a little nitpicky, that I maybe notice things that the average person who is just seeing it for the first time would never notice, right? Like you can go to the store and have like a perfectly good time watching Les Mis because it's still in the end of the day, it's still not to use a pun, but at the end of the day, it is Les Mis. It's still Les Mis. Like,
The end of the
um,
day.
yeah. But uh I did have my nitpicks, with this production. The biggest thing, and this was true. This has been true in this tour. Last time I saw it, and they didn't improve it this time, is why they have no chairs or tables for empty chairs at empty tables. It's so stupid. And they have like the ghost characters come out with these candles, and they're all like, oh, and I'm just like, it'd be one thing if this was like a really experimental take on Les Mis and this was like really modern and whatever, then I'd be like, okay. But no, it's like very standard staging all the way throughout. And then like this one song, you're all of a sudden become a minimalist. Like, it's just stupid.
Rachel, I had the same reaction. And look, again, this is a national tour. You can afford chairs and tables. This
Yeah,
was a choice. This was a
nonsense.
choice. And to your point, like Jamie Lloyd's company, who now they're doing Sunset Boulevard, they did a beautiful seagull doll's
Yeah,
house.
yeah,
If he did it, and that was part of the whole thing, sure, maybe, but it bothered me so much. It took me out of it so much because that song is so iconic. And Alex was seeing it with me. He doesn't even know the music, Rachel. Like he
yeah,
didn't even know Les Mis at all. And I was like, "Oh, you're actually really missing." Like the rest of the show, I thought was really fantastic. And one of my students was playing Cosette, and it was great. But I was like, "You're actually really missing something with this
yeah.
staging of this song."
There's like the emotional core of the whole musical, and all of a sudden we're expected to be all abstract. There were other weird things, like why they had Javert with like 80s metal hair, like big fluffy hair. I'm like, what's going on? And then the Thénardier, I thought, was a very strange performance. It was like he was from Jersey. Like he
Wait,
was
why
it,
can't I think of who that is? The
uh Thénardier, master of the
Oh,
house.
oh, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Uh
It was very
yeah.
odd. I was just like, what? He doesn't sound French at all, even a little bit. Um, and yeah, and also I thought the older Cosette, I thought her performance was weird. She had a very kind of baby type voice. It was almost like she was trying to be Tracy Turnblad, or I mean, that's a little extreme, but it was that style of voice.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that does not fit this character at all. Like, if anything, it's a very traditional type of her songs, A Heart Full of Love, it's like it's
Yes.
a very traditional sound, not a Tracy Turnblad sound.
I'm curious because when I saw it in Philly months ago, and since then, like my student, they replaced not replaced, but the kids grow old and they
Yeah,
also can't be on tour for
sure.
forever. I'm curious if a lot of the people otherwise were the same.
Mm,
If I'm remembering correctly, though, I could see what you meant about the Tracy Turnblad of it
yeah.
all. It did seem she seemed very young to me.
Yeah, very young. They definitely were leaning into that, which, I guess she is young. So, but I don't know. I didn't love that. But it was so funny because, like, nobody loves Les Mis more than me, but like all the other Utah reviewers were like raving about this is an incredible tour. And I thought some of the lighting choices were weird. It was like it was a rock concert. They were like, and I'm like, what is going on? So there were just a lot of choices that were very strange to me. So I was like, it was okay. It's Les Mis, and everybody else is just like, this is incredible. And I'm like, when did I become a Les Mis hater? How did this happen? Like,
I think though, because you love it and because you're very familiar with it, knowledgeable about it, you can talk about it in a way that it's a little bit more discerning.
yeah, it was funny though. I'm just like, what is going on with my life?
Rachel's a Les Mis hater all of a sudden. And she thinks that they could go harder with Book of Mormon.
Yeah, that's right.
Rachel's hot takes.
The last one that I wanted to talk about is I saw The Prince of Egypt at Hale Center Theater. And you've been to Hale Center. This was in the Circle Theater, so the other one than the one we were at when you were there. And this is one of those hard shows to review because everything that Hale could control was outstanding. The singing was all excellent, the spectacle of it all, the sets that, and they have a moving stage there, and they actually used it very judiciously, which it was interesting, and um, it was a great production, but this adaptation is absolutely terrible. It it is bad. I do not know what Steven Schwartz is thinking with this. It was bad, Jax. Oh my
Bad, bad,
gosh.
bad. Like
Bad, bad, bad. I mean, maybe I'm just too attached to the movie. And maybe people that, it's not like it's like a top tier movie for me. One of my favorites. I love that movie. But what was so crazy to me is and like it was especially surprising because Steven Schwartz is a religious guy. He did Children of Eden. He did Godspell. He did Hunchback of Notre Dame. All those heavy religious
yeah.
themes. It's not like he's somebody. He's not like a modern guy. Well, I don't like religion,
Right.
And so I was not expecting them to do what they did to the Prince of Egypt. It is like the Hebrew God is and Moses's religious transformation is like an afterthought. It's barely mentioned. The
In the Prince of
in the
Egypt,
Prince
it's
of
like it's
Egypt,
a
the burning bush sequence is literally just part of a montage. It might be maybe a minute, maybe a minute. There's
what?
only 5 songs from the original film in the musical, and all the new songs are lame, bland, and like in the original film, of course, it focuses on Ramses and Moses and their relationship, but not at the expense of Moses being the prophet and Moses freeing the people from this tyranny and the slavery, right? And you almost feel like it's such an underthought, the religious aspects of it, that it almost feels like Moses is the bad one doing these mean things to Pharaoh, which I guess could have been handled interesting, but it's just not. It was bad, Jax.
You know what's interesting too? Like even take out someone like not being a religious person or something like that. Why the burning bush is fascinating, even from a
Yeah.
storytelling perspective.
Yeah.
Why would you
Because
put
it's where
that
he
in a
gets his calling.
montage? Yes.
Yeah.
Like I don't understand.
They literally end this musical with Ramses and Moses in the middle of the Red Sea hugging.
No, Rachel. Rachel.
Spoiler alert. I'm sorry.
Why?
But I was just like, are you kidding me? It it's because you're supposed to feel like, well, it's the pride of Ramses that forces that gets in the way of him doing what is right. Right? He knows what it's right, but he's a prideful man, and so he lets his pride um, cause all of these horrible things to happen to his people and to him. And that whole element is completely gone because it's just like, oh, Moses is doing all these mean things to poor Ramses, and we're supposed to feel sorry for the dictator who's enslaving thousands of
Right.
people. Like, what?
I mean, that is a wild take.
Yeah, it was bad, and like it's hard to write a review on that because again, everything that they could do was outstanding. Costumes outstanding, singing outstanding. But it just was a bad adaptation. It just was very bad.
I'm curious to see like how far
Yeah.
this goes.
Because this is only the 7th time this musical has been performed.
That I was wondering. I was wondering, okay,
Yeah.
so it's the seventh time.
And there is a pro shot of it, which I did see, and it was bad, but I don't know, there was just something, it was like, I was like, oh my gosh, what were
What
they thinking?
interesting. Like I get that there's probably that was something compelling like, let's explore this relationship and turn it on its head. But just know why.
Yeah.
Why are you doing it in this way that the last scene is them hugging in the middle of the Red Sea?
Yeah. It's so bad. But so I think that's because I was like, why isn't this made it to Broadway? What's going on? Because it's such a popular movie and everything. But now I know why.
You answered it for
This is
yourself.
a bad adaptation. This is a bad adaptation. And so yeah, they really have been missing in a lot of these animation to Broadway adaptations. I mean, I think that Anastasia is very bad. Maybe not as bad as this, but I think it's pretty bad. And then this is very bad. And it's like they try to sort of throw in these realism or make it more modern, and instead of just embracing what people love about the original films.
Right.
I
And
mean,
I
that's why
just,
they're adapting them to begin with, is people love them.
yeah, and it's strange to me that you would think you need to turn something like that on its head. It's enough.
Mm,
It's already enough. It's already more than
mm,
enough.
yeah. So there we go. That is those are the big things that I saw. I saw a great little production of Barefoot in the Park.
Oh,
That was really
I
fun.
love that show.
Yeah, yeah, that was a great show at the Covey. Um, I saw Persuasion at the Parker, and that
Oh,
was
yeah, I wanted
fun.
to see that so bad.
Oh, I know. So
Like,
there we
I bet that was
go.
awesome.
Yeah, so let us know what you've been watching, what you think of the Olivier nominations, and if you've gotten to see any of these things that we talked about or anything else, we'd love to hear it in the comments. And make sure you check out everything going on at the OnStage blog. We've got lots of great articles on there. We've got lots of great episodes of the podcast. And Jax, where can people find you?
Jacqueline Collier on Instagram.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, on Rotten Tomatoes, and also at rachelsreviewstheater.com, where I have all of my theater reviews. And you can find my review of Les Mis. You can find my review of Prince of Egypt, of everything we talked about on that site. So check that out. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye.